Hi and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to compare the Godox V1 to the Godox V860 Mark III. So if you're in the market for a Godox speed light, hopefully this video can help you decide which is the better one, because we're going to have a look at the differences between them and also what are the advantages of using one over the other. If you're new to the channel, you may consider subscribing so you won't be missing any of my future videos. If you like the video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. And if you have any thoughts and questions, leave them in the comments down below. Okay, now let's go ahead and begin. So the first and probably the most important difference between the two is the shape of the head. The V860 Mark III has a rectangular head, whereas the V1 has a round head. Now, whether that makes any difference in terms of the pattern of the light as well as the quality, we can find out later in the video. For now, let's have a look at all the differences between them and also what other options the V860 has that the V1 does not. In the box, they come with the same accessories, a charger, a cable, battery dock, a case, and a mounting foot. And here's where I found the first difference. The battery on the V860 is a VB268 battery, which has 3000 mAh capacity, whereas the V1 came with a VB26, which has a smaller capacity of 2600 mAh. This is also noted in the manual. As you can see, there's a label here saying product upgrade lithium battery parameters changed. Now, this battery can be swapped around. It doesn't matter whether we're using the VB268 or the VB26 on either of the flashes. What does matter is that you will get more cycles with a VB26A battery. That's because both the V1 and the V860 Mark III have the same maximum output power of 70 watt-second. So with the battery being larger on the V860, you will get more cycles per charge. But I did ask Godox about this and they told me that both the V1 and the V860 can come with either of the batteries. It's all down to the supplier and the place you buy it from. It's not something only reserved for the V860. To the left of the flash, we have a difference. The flap covering the PC-Sync port and the USB Type-C is a little bit smaller. That's because the V860 Mark III has a new switch. This can help us switch between TTL and manual. So I don't think this switch was necessary because cycling between modes was quick anyway. Maybe like a touch slower because we have to cycle between TTL, manual, and stroboscopic before we can get to TTL again. But it's a welcome change and I kind of like it. The other thing that's different, the foot is made of metal, whereas on the V1 it's made of plastic. This makes it more durable and it may last longer than the one on the V1. And the difference I noticed when sliding it into the hot shot of the camera, the metal one slides easier both in and out. In terms of buttons, they're all the same with the exception of the scroll wheel on the V860 Mark III being a touch smaller. Now going to the front of the flash, the logo is a little bit low on the V860. That's because the modeling lamp is at the front of the flash, not on the head of it. Now, depending on how you look at this could be beneficial or it can be inconvenient. So if you're using the camera and you're bouncing light off the ceiling while shooting in a dark environment, then it can be beneficial because you don't have to tilt the head down like you would on the V1 for the modeling lamp to light your subject. But if you're using it with one of these brackets and an umbrella or a small softbox, you can say goodbye to it because it will be blocked by the bracket, whereas on the V1 it will not. Either way, they had to make it like this because there wasn't any room on the head like there is on the V1. And since we mentioned the head of the flash, the V860's head is not only rectangular, but it has a diffuser plate and a bounce guard built into it, which is actually common with rectangular flashes, and it can be beneficial. Firstly, you don't have to buy one, and secondly, you won't misplace it or lose it because you can just tuck it back in when you don't need it anymore. There's also a zoom difference between them. On the V1, the zoom ranges from 28 to 105 millimeters, whereas on the V860, it ranges from 20 to 200. And it can even go to 14 millimeter when the diffuser plate, and the bounce guard is taken out. Which again can be beneficial because it can create a larger source of light when bouncing light off a ceiling or a wall. Hence, the light will be softer. Now, are there any advantages of using one over the other? Well, the reason Godox created a round head in the first place is to create a more even pattern of light. And as we can see in these two examples, the pattern on the V1 is more even, which can make a difference when used as direct flash. But when used with modifiers, it shouldn't make that big of a difference. And since we mentioned modifiers, the V1 can take magnetic modifiers because it has a metal ring around the head. The V860 can take these modifiers as well, but it does require an adapter. So even though the V1 has a more even light pattern, which should reduce hotspots, it still remains a harsh light and it won't make that big of a difference compared to the V860 Mark III. Creating a softer light requires bouncing it and using a large modifier. So the advantages of using the V860 are having a wider zoom range, which also makes it a little bit better in my opinion for bouncing light. It can be found cheaper and it seems that sometimes they come with a larger battery. You can also use third-party modifiers with it. It has a metal foot and it has an extra switch. Another minor advantage of using the V860 over the V1 is the fact that it can be used with any of these brackets, whereas the V1 requires a special bracket called Godox S2. The placement of the modeling lamp is a bit awkward on the V860 and it can be blocked when used with a bracket, but I guess there isn't any room on the head of the flash, so I'm glad there is one to begin with. All the other specs, options in the menu and recycling times are similar on both flashes. So now the question becomes, which is the better one? Like I said, the V1 has a slight advantage if used as direct flash because the light pattern is more even. That said, it's not all that different compared to the V860, and most of the times I use it bounced or modified because both of them produce a small and harsh source of light. Personally, I like them both, but for me the metal ring around the head of the V1 is useful because I can add gels and modifiers to it. But also the metal foot, the larger battery, the extra switch, the extended zoom range are things that I like about the V860 as well. So like I said, the V1 is a hair better, but I try not to use direct flash a whole lot. And really I could work with either of them because they're both great flashes. So hopefully this video can help you decide which is the better one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care now.